Have you and your family been put in a position that you need to sell an inherited property, and now you're left with thinking, do we go ahead and fix the home up, or do we just sell it as is? So today we're going to be talking about, I'm going to touch on some key points and some questions maybe to ask yourselves before you move forward with some of those improvements, because I have seen families that have invested thousands of dollars into a property and they've made that money back out of the property, but I've also seen it go the other way where they've invested $50,000-$60,000 into the property and it doesn't pencil out and they don't actually make that property back. So we're going to go over some key points here to help you and your family decide whether or not it makes sense to fix up any parts of the home prior to putting it on market. So the key point number one is going to be, as the executor or the personal representative, you always have to keep in mind at the back of your head that your job is a fiduciary for the estate. So at the end of the day, it's about paying out the beneficiaries. So just always keep that in mind. So here are some questions to ask yourself before we start moving forward is, what is the overall condition of the home? How quickly does this home need to sell? Will the condition of the home as it sits right now limit the number of buyers that would be interested or qualify for that property? And will the money spent actually produce a return for the estate? So those are the 4 questions. We're going to drill down on these points just a little bit. So what's the current condition of the home? We need to focus on repairs that are actually going to protect the value of the property. Again, do not spend a ton and gob of money on things that won't protect the value. It doesn't make sense to go in and redo the flooring in the kitchen and those types of things when buyers can actually kind of overlook those things a little bit because they're already thinking in their mind what they would want to do. So you could potentially invest hundreds of thousands, well, maybe not hundreds of thousands, depending on where the home's located at, but you could spend thousands of dollars on something and then a buyer comes in and doesn't like it. So we're going to focus on the things that actually mean something to the buyer at the end of the day, which is going to be, is there any active leaks in the home? Is there any broken windows? What does the flooring look like? Was there carpet that is super stained and is halfway pulled up or shredded because of an animal at a doorway? Those types of things to think about. Is there a working air conditioning system? Any items that would prevent a buyer from getting financing on that home. There are products out there like a FHA or a VA loan. They can be a little bit more strict when it comes to providing a loan on a property. So when you go to just sell a house as is, typically you're thinking conventional or cash buyers only. So are there going to be some things that you could potentially do to this home to get it in a position where it would qualify for more buyers? And then are there supporting comps in the neighborhood to support the price that you would need to put on this home to cover the costs that you're going to be putting into the upgrades? So, okay, let's talk about another key point would be, how quickly does the estate need to sell? You are going to have costs involved if you're waiting for contractors or materials or repair times, or how about those unexpected items? Let's say you did pull up some flooring and then you found foundation cracks and that you weren't expecting. So do keep in mind that if you do decide to move forward and do some upgrades to the home, that you could potentially run into some of these issues. Also, while you're waiting for all those repairs to be done, you're going to have to keep paying potentially a mortgage if the house is not free and clear, property taxes, utilities. So are those carrying costs going to offset the timeline? Are you going to be able to make that money back up as well, if that makes sense? Because if you've got a 3,000 square foot house and you're turning on the air conditioning while while contractors are in there, that electric bill could cost you a lot of money. Anyway, we're not talking about power bills today. Key point number 4, will the condition of the home limit the number of buyers. So will it shrink down the buyer pool? We're going to go back and touch on the financing part of things. Okay. So if you are not going to make some of the necessary things like a leaky roof or a functioning air conditioning unit, you're going to have buyers that are not even going to come look at it. They're going to be like, well, you know what? I can overlook the dated cabinets and the finishes of the home. You know, I can put paint on the wall, those types of things. But when it comes to the things that are structural, health, safety, structural, those types of things, they're not going to be able to overlook them. They just are not. So, and then again, those deferred maintenance items will cause that buyer not to be able to get financing on it. Now, there is an FHA product out there that's kind of like a rehab type loan, but again, buyers then have to go to themselves, well, why would I want to put all that effort into that house when I can just go down the street and buy another one that's ready to go without all the deferred maintenance? So those are some things to think about, some key takeaways. The goal isn't necessarily to create a brand new model home, but it's to remove obstacles that are going to prevent those qualified buyers from purchasing. Okay, another key point, well, buyers actually pay more. So in other words, if this home is sitting in a community where all the homes that are in fairly good condition, no deferred maintenance, and they're all selling, let's say for $500,000. And you come in and go, well, we're going to update this and that and this and that, but we want to get that money back out of it. That buyer's not going to pay more than what the rest of the homes in the neighborhood are going for. So it's probably pretty important for you at that point to probably bring in a real estate professional to help you find the data. What are homes selling in this neighborhood at this square footage with the same bedroom, bathroom, garage count, those types of things, features of the home. Okay, key point number 6 is you need to consider the risk, the delays, disagreements between family members. So again, it's really important for you on the front end of all of this to get family involved. You are the executor. Again, the executor's job is to disperse the funds to the beneficiaries. You are going to have a family member that says, oh my God, just sell it as is. And you're going to have another family member that's like, well, we could net a lot more if we did these things. So make sure you're not causing disagreements with the family members, or at least make sure everybody's on the same page. Make sure that you're not exceeding a budget if you do decide to do some sort of upgrades, and then make sure that you're timing everything correctly. I would hate for you to spend gobs of money and time to upgrade this home and then the market goes soft on you. In fact, I just talked about that in the video I did last week, that sometimes the more you lag on something, the market could potentially change. Now, it could go the other way as well, but just know that that's a risk that you are taking. Next key point is just that every single property is different. You can be, again, in a neighborhood where all the homes are exactly the same, or you could be in a neighborhood where everybody has, I'm just having a quick little brain fart, I apologize for that, but all the homes in that neighborhood are completely different, and they're all in acres, and they all have different features, casitas, pools, that sort of thing. So every single property is going to be different. So you do need to take that into account. The goal, think about it this way, the goal is to make sure that you're restoring the property to the condition where buyers will appreciate it. Let me give you an example. I had a gentleman whose aunt's house in Glendale, when he came to sell the house, found out that she was a hoarder. Stuff piled high all over the house. And he was getting investors offers. And he easily could have said, sure, here you go, $175,000, you deal with everything. But he saw the potential in the neighborhood. He called me almost immediately, and we started talking about what comps were selling for in that neighborhood. And so he did take the time to, he got everything out of the home. He literally, besides the bathrooms, took everything out. The cabinets, the flooring, everything you can think. Well, not all the walls. The walls were actually in very good condition because she was very organized hoarder. So everything was against the walls, so it protected the walls. But he took everything out of that home, remodeled it, put in new flooring, a new kitchen, and then just did a facelift on the bathrooms, which was enough. And then he did have the carpets replaced in the bathroom. So the funds that he put into that really weren't that bad, because luckily for him, she had maintained the important things like the roof and the air conditioning and that sort of thing. So all in, he maybe was $50,000-$60,000 into it. And when he walked away, we sold it for $340,000. So in that particular case, it made sense. Now, it did take him a long time to basically flip the house. I mean, he was one of the beneficiaries as well. So that's something to think about, is the time, because he was his own contractor. He brought in some things to be done, but otherwise he did everything himself. So again, let's just go back over that point. The goal is to restore the property to a condition where buyers will appreciate it and want to purchase it. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Last point, get professional help. If you are stuck in paralysis by analysis, get people involved. Talk to the probate attorney, talk to the accountants, the family members, contractors if you need to. If you know for sure that there's going to be repairs needed, like you're seeing that there was an active leak, whether it be roof leak or HVAC leak, get contractors involved. And by all means, at this point, make sure you're speaking to a real estate professional. That's what I do here in Arizona. If you do not have a real estate agent in your area that is familiar with the probate or estate process, call me. I'd be happy to connect you with an agent in your area that'd be willing to sit down with you and go over these things. Because what they're going to be able to do, a good realtor who's familiar with working with estates and probate should be able to explain what that property might sell for after the repairs, what repairs are worth considering. That's something to think about. What buyers expect in that particular neighborhood. We have a lot of 55 plus communities in the Valley of the Sun here, and there are certain buyers that are looking in that area. So it's really important that you talk to a real estate professional that is familiar with those communities, that can say, oh yeah, in this communities, people are looking for this. They're not looking for that. And then whether or not those improvements are likely to produce a return. I'm going to give you one last example. And this was not an estate situation. It was more of we need to sell this home because mom is going into assisted living and we need the money to be able to take care of her. So we listed this home. It was all original 1980s, very compartmentalized, but it sat right on a golf course in this beautiful 55 plus community. And all the offers came in were knocking them at the knees because it needed a facelift desperately. And so, and it also had a solar lease. We will do a completely different video about solar, but solar leases are very hard. It's very hard to sell that to a buyer on top of what they're already going to have to be paying for a home. So anyway, since all of the feedback was coming in that, hey, it needs all these things, my client finally came to me and said, okay, what if I were to put some money into the house? And I'm like, well, let's talk to a contractor. So we did, and mind you, we were at the point where our market in these 55 plus communities starts to kind of go down in the summer months, because we have a lot of people who, they have second homes here, or we call them snowbirds. They only come down here for the winter months. And so we were running into the summer months, and so we were fortunate enough to find a contractor to at least do the flooring and the painting, and then they added some more lighting into the home. And that was enough to give it a bit of a facelift. Now, I will say the amount of money that he put into it, he did get back out, and maybe just a little bit more, but not a ton more. So in other words, if we had put $50,000 into it, did we get $100,000 out of it? We did not. So those, again, was it worth it? At that point, it probably was, only because we did the work when it was kind of the off season, and it all worked out. And the house did end up selling, again, not for as much as we were hoping for. So do get your real estate agent involved, have them drill down on these things with you. And again, if you need help finding somebody in a different market, do not hesitate to reach out. I haven't thought about what I'm going to talk about next week, but I'm sure it's going to be a good one. So you should probably go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you're notified when that video drops next week, and we'll see you then.